Welcome, everyone. Tim, do you hear this avant-garde music?
Yeah, I can hear. How are you?
You know, I was a little bit confused for a second because I had an extra window open today. And so I was trying to hear where the sound was coming from. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, this sounds right. Just about right. I don't hear your other sounds.
No, it was fine the whole time, but I was immensely confused. It's very confusing to me. Welcome, everyone. Hello. How's everyone doing tonight? It's good to be here with you all and to be working at Human Rights Literacy tonight. How's it going, Tim?
It's going well. Thank you, BA. How are you?
You know, this has been one of, I think, more of my epic evenings here for the show. Like, we've been working very hard on getting this episode right, and there's so much to do, but I feel like we've worked really hard at this. For folks that are just coming in or just figuring out what we're up to tonight, we're hosting an imaginary presidential debate. Tim, for you, what does an imaginary presidential debate mean?
I think, well, we haven't had a lot of presidential debates recently, and they seem to be avoiding it. But if I had to guess, it would be just where we role play and try to come across as accurately as possible the policies of the different candidates, not just the duopoly candidates, but maybe some alternatives that we are not hearing from. But if we did, it could radically change the conversation.
Well, so one thing that you are very interested in is the candidates who are not just part of the major parties, but the other candidates who are outside of the major parties.
Yeah, every time I hear one of the quote unquote third party candidates, the people who don't get a lot of platform these days, it's like night and day. The way they just sound like they're paying attention to what's really going on in ways that I wonder what would the country be like if one of them actually got elected. Oh my gosh. So it's very exciting, and I don't know exactly why. I think it has something to do with I've heard that the host organization for the debates has like a requirement that all the candidates have to have won enough states delegates, like 270, to like technically win presidency by the time of the debate, and nobody's crossed that threshold yet.
Right. So you're pointing out that that in order for people to be able to debate, they have to meet a certain threshold, and for you believe that that hearing other voices can enrich the conversation, and I do want to speak to that because I think that there's an immense feeling of a lack of democracy in our time right now, that folks are feeling unheard. They're feeling like we're not talking with each other. And so part of my interest in this, and I want to actually share a clip that was on C-SPAN today that was kind of, I was thinking about this today in terms of democracy. So it's, I think there's this sense that we're getting away from democracy, and that we need to find some way to all connect and to talk to each other and listen to each other and debate about these issues, so people can actually feel like we're using our free decision making in an election. Let me play this clip. And so this was from C-SPAN's Washington Journal today. And I'm going to share the clip actually in the chat a little bit, because so you can click on this link and see it yourself that way. But I'm going to share this as well to the group right now. So I'm going to play so we can take a look at this.
Unlawfully. Gina in New York, independent line. Gina in New York, hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I wanted to know is that I really want this to go out. I feel as though that this debate that we're having between Biden and Trump, I really think that it should be with the public. I feel as though that the citizens of the United States should be the ones to ask the questions. I mean, we already know what they're doing, okay? It's about what they did here, what they did here. Okay, we already know that. They've been doing that for months. Let civilians ask the questions. These are the things that we are concerned about. And those are the things that I feel personally that needs to be spoken about. So
what question would you ask?
Well, for one, I would ask them, what is the relationship, okay, between Israel and the United States, since they're so close? I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, because it seems like that, they're close, and it seems like what they say, goes. I mean, for us, we send in our Congress to go in there and to fight for us. But it seems like that we don't get that done. So I want to know, what is the relationship? I mean, what is it that Israel do that have them so close that they say everything goes?
Okay, Gina there in New York. This is from.
So, yeah, I got kind of inspired at this clip of asking, what are folks noticing here?
Maybe giving access to American citizens to the debate questions, to let the public lead maybe the debate.
The giving access to Americans on the debate questions so the public can lead.
Yeah, if you if we had some good questions, I think that would be a great idea. And I bet just based on the people who call in to the Washington Journal, I think that was from this morning's Washington.
Yeah, that was from today's Washington Journal.
I'm amazed when I listen to just the diversity of insights and opinions, and I mean, it's just a broad spectrum, and it would be amazing if half of the people who called into Washington Journal could pose a question in a debate.
Yeah, I noticed that that she was asking for the people to be involved. That stood out to me, and I thought to myself, this is really a great question. Just the whole notion of being involved in that. We were already planning this imaginary debate today. So given that we've been planning this imaginary debate, I guess we should tell everybody a little bit about it. We could either, folks in the audience, would you rather we jump into announcements first, or just maybe try our first chaotic round of the imaginary presidential debate? What do you think, Tim? If nobody else responds before we decide, what do you think? Announcements first, or the first round of the debate as a preview for everybody?
We could jump into the debate. When you say announcements, though, are you talking about the agenda for the show or other
Yeah,
than show announcements?
yeah, we've got a few announcements tonight. The usual announcements about other events, and what folks can volunteer for if they want to. And then we've also got the measurements for purposeful harmony. But this is kind of a preview right now, so we've got a chance to jump in a little bit, and so I'm fine with either.
Yeah, let's do the debate. And
all right, let's jump in, and then we'll get to announcements after. We'll do the announcements after we do our first round of the debate. And now I want to tell everybody that between Tim and I, we are going to be playing all the roles here between the two of us. So we have to play as many presidential contenders as we can handle. And in some cases, we kind of know their positions. We might have one source about them, but we're gonna do our best, and we're gonna share where we're at with you on it. And what we're going to do is we're also going to take turns facilitating for each other. So one of us will be one of the presidential candidate supporters, or a candidate if somebody feels so bold to do that, and we'll go back and forth that way. Anything else you can think of, Tim?
Who's moderating?
So we're going to take turns. I think we should just take turns in do we want to start with any opening statements from, like, we could let if you want me to, I could facilitate, and then I could invite, like, for instance, maybe we should just start with an opening, all the candidates say an opening statement, and so and that could be a start of what we're doing. How do you like that?
It sounds good. I've got my handy dandy cheat sheets here from the policies of Jill Stein and Cornel West, and I'm by no means close to being very good at either of them, but yeah, I think it'll be a good.
Well, you're also doing President Biden too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got Trump and Kennedy, and I'm going to be faithful. Trying to think, is there anybody else we're leaving out?
Marianne Williamson is pretty awesome. I can pull up her.
Yeah, I guess she's still she's still out there in the pure good of theory. Yeah, so
yeah, her website's still up, and she's got all the policies that anybody could ask for. If you've seen her interview, on C-SPAN, or some of her YouTube talks, she's really paying attention.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's gotten a lot of traction on the ballots around the country, not like Jill Stein, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So shall we start? I can start as the moderator. Who do you want to begin as?
I could start with Biden.
Okay. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm also going to do. Wait. Do you know how to change your name tag to say
Like in settings?
President Biden supporter or whatever you want to, or imaginary President Biden supporter, however that helps you?
No. Where do I do that? I've never had those kind of controls in the studio. If it was like a Zoom, maybe I would go to the three dots, but I see settings here. Camera, audio.
Let's see.
Touch up my appearance. No. Oh, wait. Oh, here it is. Does that work?
That's perfect.
Shall we start? There I am.
Okay. Oh, you're going to pretend to be President Biden. Okay. Well, Mr. President, it is such, thank you so much for coming here on this august occasion at the Code Whatever Imaginary Debate. We are honored, President Biden, that you've joined our imaginary debate. And we'd like to open up with your opening statement on Israel, Palestine, and Gaza.
Well, thank you for having me, my fellow Americans. I just want to say we're in the fight for the soul of our nation. And this is no time to get lost in the rhetoric. It's either me or take away your rights, Trump. It's me or embracing violence, Trump. Don't listen to what anybody tells you. We're better than that. And we've got friends in high places, like in Israel and around the world. There are ace in the hole in the Middle East for cheap gas and oil. We really owe a debt of gratitude for Israel, and we're not going to abandon them. You know, they deserve all the weapons that they get, and endless funds for endless wars to continue economic growth and prosperity for Americans at the expense of the planet and society everywhere.
Now let me just ask you a little question there. Would President Biden say endless funds like for the planet, or like would he say that, or how would he say it?
I don't know, but that's what he's been doing.
Right. So from your point of view, that's what he's been doing. But also, we should try to. So, is there a way that you could find to try to represent him, as he might represent himself? Because remember, you can also debate him in one of your next speeches. So everything you say, is there for the debate.
I mean, he usually talks in specific dollar amounts that are going to his aid packages, and yeah, I mean, I guess I could just use a little bit more examples. What was the latest? What was it? Aid package that he approved?
Let's pull it. And
18,
yeah, by the way, folks, as we're going here, if you want to help us out, and there's links to articles that represent policy statements by people, we're glad to incorporate that in. And I want to also point out, I see Joey says, "Let's go, Brandon," and also says Jasmine Surge, Sherman, and Tundra Blue Bear in the United States 2024. So we've got another candidate that we could also, that if somebody wanted to advocate her policy, that would be somebody else we could be looking at too. Thank you, Joey. So I think let's see.
I think he's been saying he wants to tax billionaires, and I mean, I don't know why it's so hard to do that, but he can say what he wants.
I just threw a link into, I guess Trump is saying Biden is saying he wants to stop all aid to Israel, and this is a fact check on that. So that might have something. And then I'm looking for. So let's take a look at this. Here's an article we could take a look at. I'm going to paste this in the chat here.
Jasmine Sherman was amazing in the third-party debates. Jill Stein was there. We should watch a little bit of that if we have a chance.
Yeah, we can. We certainly can. We certainly can. Yeah, I've got here. Yeah, so it says the legislation comes weeks after the Biden administration quietly paused one shipment of heavy bombs to Israel over concerns more civilians in Gaza could be killed. The death tolls reached 35. Okay. The previously scheduled single shipment that was paused in late April contained 1,800 2,000-pound bombs and 1,700 500-pound bombs. And so the Pentagon spokesperson, General Pat Ryder, told reporters the administration has not made a final determination. And so yeah, there was something where he was saying that what they were thinking about. But
if you listen to any of the third-party candidates, they're saying things that Americans are just not hearing, or not. I mean, I think.
Well, so I'm hearing you say that the third-party candidates are saying things a lot of candidates aren't hearing. So maybe, do you? Let's see. So, do you want to finish out your first round of debating on Biden, and then maybe and then maybe we'll switch, and you can be the facilitator, and I'll lay out Trump's policy.
Sure.
But yeah, let's try to be, get try to see how we can do with this. Does this article help with it a little bit? And Joey says, agreed, Tim.
Oh, to the Sherman's debate. Yeah, I put the link to that in the private.
Yeah,
chat.
we can look at that later today too.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me. Yeah. Okay. So President Biden, when last we were here at the imaginary presidential debate, I believe you had said some things about, if I'm not mistaken, that Israel is our ace in the hole in the Middle East and that we're not going to abandon them. Do you want to say more about it too?
Oh yeah, I mean they've been attacked by terrorists, and they've had a long story of oppression and violence against them. Not to mention, we're a country of Christians, and the Judeo-Christian bond is strong in this country. We sort of thrive and flourish based on the stories that we tell ourselves, and it includes a home for our spiritual allies in the Middle East. I mean, they're the only democracy in the Middle East, and we're a democracy, so it only makes sense that they would be our allies. Anybody who says otherwise can just can be called a traitor and a terrorist. Terrorist loving, Hamas loving, baby killing. It's so abhorrent. We can't imagine what the world would be like without Israel in the Middle East.
So now, what are folks noticing in this debate position? Feel free to share in the chat what you're noticing. Now, as we're waiting for folks to share anything, how is that for you, Tim?
I feel a little unpolished, to say the least.
I mean, that's fair because we're just jumping in this today,
Yeah.
And which is cool. This is a new format. Wait till you see the Minecraft movie studio we're building.
Yes, I need an avatar.
Yeah, I know. Once we get avatars, then we can present and make hand motions and do cinematic modes and all sorts of things. But so were there any puzzles for you as you were doing it, or any challenges?
I think that there's a better way to say, kind of speak to the religious base and the people who identify with the need for Palestine. I just feel like it's such a loaded, heavy issue for folks who think this is like a religious conflict, or that Israel is in serious threat, and that they have like a need to defend themselves.
Hey, Semi, welcome.
Hey, Semi.
Yeah, so I hear you saying that we're talking about we're having this imaginary debate, and Tim just played President Biden. And one of the things, Tim, I believe, I think you believe that one of the important things that is complex is religious people's relationship to Israel and Palestine, and the complexity that's around that.
Yeah, yeah. That it seems to like people are caught in between the need to defend their religious identity through the story of Israel and our need as a nation to be like the world's um, police or some kind of responsibility around defending democracy and the sort of the whole Holocaust kind of guilt thing where we're like we definitely need to support Israel because they've been sort of on the victim end of history for a long time, and I feel like we do a good job of keeping that story alive, even though Israel is so
Well, there's a
more
separate
powerful over there.
there's a separation, right, between like Jewish refugee status, right, and how Europe chose to deal with that, and there's a gap between that and whether whether it was right. Like we could go into a whole thing about like all the complexities and the displacement of Palestinians in relation to that, and how it's pit Palestinians against Jewish folks or Israelis even.
Despite the fact that they've lived together in relative harmony for centuries before.
Yeah. So now, okay. So now, do you want to be the facilitator and I will debate Trump's position on this?
Yeah.
Hold on. Give me just a moment.
Gotta change the name.
And I'm going to share for folks just as we're going here. I've got there's actually a document that I can share with everyone, which we've outlined. I'm going to share this with folks. We've outlined actually a list of sources. I'm just going to paste this in the chat for folks.
Joe, yeah.
Ahead. Oh, you go ahead.
Just I feel that the religious aspect in quotes is a scapegoat to European colonialism. Totally with you on that. It's like the whole colonial project was propped up by religious exceptionalism and hierarchy over those who were in need of being civilized, with that story of enlightenment and the papal decree that said it was okay to pillage and steal and kill. Yeah,
it makes me think of the Crusades too.
Totally. Yeah.
I
think the like the founders of each religion get absconded and taken away, taken out of context, and become like everything that the original author, whoever it's in the name of, I would not agree at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's actually a William Blake piece, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, where in that piece he actually talks about how the poets originally created religion, and then it got taken over by priesthoods. In fact, let me see if I can even find there's it's visualized actually. It's an illuminated book. But anyhow, the priests come in and build a racket on top of what the poets came up with.
Yeah.
So let's take a turn, and as we go, the piece I wanted to share a little bit is this notion. There was I want to share with folks. Well, I guess let's jump into it, and I'll share my sources in a sec. So now, now you're the facilitator. Let me change. So we should change our labels again, and edit our names.
And you are.
I'm no. I'm an imaginary Trump supporter, Joanna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's easier sometimes. I think it's easier sometimes when we're doing this kind of stuff to kind of not have to be under the expectation that we have to play a presidential candidate. I think it's easier to believe in what you're doing, because a lot of times if you're campaigning for somebody, you don't know much about them at all, but you're trying to make an argument, right? And so like, it's great if you are a convincing Trump or you're a convincing Biden or whatever, but also you don't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself.
That's good. And as the facilitator, am I asking to hear from a Trump supporter? Like,
so in this case, we're still doing the opening statements. So if you want to invite me to make an opening statement as facilitator, or if you want to just extend what was said before, but for the audience, in case, feel free to introduce yourself as the other facilitator, or take it however you're the facilitator. So it's your floor. So I'm going to leave it to you.
Okay. So yes, thank you all for coming to this imaginary debate. And I think we have Joanna up next. We're going to hear from an imaginary Trump supporter. And please take it away. Tell us why you think that Trump should be the next president.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tim. Well, and we're talking about Gaza, right? I was told that we'd be talking about Gaza today. That's right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for me, I take very seriously what President Trump said at the NRA conference where he was endorsed, and he said that he wanted to help. He would help Israel fight their war on terror, and so I want to support him in that, and that's what his position is. This is not the kind of position that is half-hearted, say, like Biden's, or just completely. Well, Biden's is completely just nutso, and so the other people are even nuttier, and we stand by that. So if you want somebody with a sensible Middle East policy who cares about Israel, who's a real ally, who brought the Jerusalem embassy into being, then I think you should strongly consider the Trump presidency scene.
Thank you, Joanna. And I know it's a scary world out there. And could you talk about why we have to call them terrorists? I mean, why is Trump so determined to label people who are different than we are here in America as terrorists? Because they're defending themselves?
Well, you're asking if they're defending themselves, but they're not a nation. Israel's a nation, and Israel's defending themselves from them, and this is clearly, don't you denounce these actions? They're very violent, and I would think that you would be, as a person who's asking me about this, wouldn't you be concerned about that?
Yeah, I don't like violence, and I could see your point. If people don't have a nation and they're defending themselves, it is easier to just discount them as terrorists and just get everybody to hate them and think of them as like inhuman. But what about
now? Wait, let's time out for just a second here, and I'm down to keep with debate going, but also remember we could also be debating Trump through the other people too. For instance, if you wanted to come on to support Jill Stein, to be a supporter of Jill Stein next, or you could be a supporter of Dr. Cornel West, or any candidate that you want. You could also do that. But I also want to give you room if you like, as a facilitator, if you want to try to ask provocative questions, that's cool too. We could also go down that road. So I don't want to stop you from doing that.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep the conversation going. I'm just responding to what Joanna said.
No, that's and that's actually pretty cool. And some I want to I don't want to discourage that, because that is part of the banter. I admit that I imagined it that we'd all make the statements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. But
happy to.
But this is an imaginary debate, so we can change the rules. It's just an imaginary debate.
So to get the other candidates in the room, though, yes, if we could imagine a third party candidate.
Yeah. Let's bring in.
Should we bring in Jill Stein?
I think so for the debate. Now, before we do that, I just want to, since we're in a timeout right now, I just want to notice that Joey says, I want to note that we do presidential debate styles in our dialogue on social media. Much of it is full of talking points mixed with grabs and trash conversation, or jabs, it's later corrected, and trash conversations.
It sounds like good practice.
Well, and like that's kind of the fun of what we're doing, is we're setting up a way that we can practice at debating, but then also have like a meta around it, because we've got this meta around it that we're using right now to try to figure out, what does independence mean to us? What does it all mean?
I'm curious if Joey wants to come on the show and backstage and try out.
Yeah, Joey, if you want to come on, you're certainly welcome to join us on
Maybe
stage and play anybody. Be any imaginary supporter of any candidate, any imaginary or real candidate you want. So feel free. Let me very quickly. So before, okay. So now before Jill Stein walks on, do we have anything else? Anything else we should do before Jill Stein walks on? Are you ready to, or a Jill Stein supporter, however you wish? Are you ready to support Jill Stein?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
Let me change my name.
Yeah, I need to change mine too. This is kind of fun.
All right. I still love the where we were going with the Trump supporter and just this notion of a terrorist, and yeah, but from a Jill Stein supporter, I guess maybe we could keep that conversation going.
If that's you're the Jill Stein supporter on the debate, so it's your floor. Ready?
Yeah.
And we're back in. Welcome, Stein supporter. What's your name, by the way? I'm sorry.
Jacob.
Jacob. Yeah, nice to meet you, Jacob. So, Jacob, now we're asking everybody to make statements about your candidate in terms of what your candidate's views are around Gaza and around what's going on in the Middle East, in your Middle East policy, or Dr. Stein's policy.
Yeah, Dr. Stein is first and foremost a supporter of international law and human rights. So, I mean, if you have a foreign policy based on diplomacy rather than might makes right, then all of a sudden you can do things like cut military spending, because instead of being like the driver of conflict around the world and proxy and secret wars, we can choose to end all of this military establishment and take that money. What is it? 3.8 billion a year or 4.8 billion a year, and instead of sending it to Israel for arming themselves in the Middle East, we could put it in towards education and reconciliation, and that money could go towards land back policies that would help return civility and humanity back to Palestine, to where people lived under one. They were Arab Christians and Arab Jews and Arab Muslims, and they cohabitated together. And we could just eliminate this really stuck negative conflict, and we can start telling each other the better stories about each other, and we could start sharing resources, because we're facing a climate catastrophe, and Dr. Stein is an honest observer, and she's paying attention to climate scientists, and she knows we have to come together and mobilize the whole planet around saving ourselves. And it starts with treating people with dignity and respect, and reaching across traditional barriers and conflict issues, and figuring out how we're gonna get through this bottleneck of too much greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Like, we can't even get there because we're fighting. And she knows that we could end the existing wars immediately with just a little bit of stroke of a pen in foreign policy. Yeah, I mean, I think she's got the languaging and the experience and enough policy structure to provide real alternatives to this endless war that we've been encountering since coming out of World War II, honestly, around the planet. We've been pushing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do folks in the audience notice? So I'll even restate it back a little bit. unless folks get on top of it a little faster. So one thing I noticed you were saying is that I think at the beginning you were talking about the United States having these proxy wars and playing kind of military games with international policy, and that having a straightforward policy about it, where you're ending the causes of war and ending the funding, and using that money to fund domestic priorities that take care of people, that you're arguing that could make a free Palestine. Are there details? Now that's a broad stroke. Are there details folks notice that I'm missing there? Oh, now wait. Now you just okay. Now I'm going to, in my moderator role, I'm going to continue and say, you just mentioned that you had something to say to the Trump supporter. Did you still want to ask more questions to the Trump supporter? I can bring them back in here, and you could debate them a little bit more.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let me go get them. Hold on one second.
And Joey says,
Hi, this is Joanna again. Yeah, what did you want to say?
Hey, Joanna, Jacob here, for Jill Stein. I was thinking about what you said about Biden would be the candidate who can stand strong against terrorism, and I heard you say that
you heard me say that Biden would stand strong against terrorism?
Sorry, Trump.
Biden's Thank you. I would never say that.
So what I think I heard you say was Trump would stand strong to fight terrorism.
Yeah, I did. I said he would help the Israelis finish their war on terror.
Ah, okay. So why
Which is
is
what Trump said at the NRA meeting.
Right. Well, I think if you're at an NRA meeting, you know that the world is a dangerous place, and that's why we all have a right to bear arms, because we have to protect ourselves against the bad guys, right? And the terrorists are these bad guys who are coming in and attacking Israelis. Because
you're saying things that sound correct, but why is it that I don't trust you?
Because it's your worldview not to trust others, and you're being manipulated by Trump, who says you can't trust others, and you need a strong leader who can blow over all of your enemies.
We do need a strong leader.
Well, why is it that you call Hamas terrorists when they're just defending? It's not their fault that they don't have a country, and they're not like legitimately defending their land and their rights, their human rights.
This is the largest Jewish massacre in history at one time.
And how many died? And
more than 1,000 in one day.
And that's never happened against people in Palestine.
Well, but the Palestinians, they started it.
Didn't like 15,000 die in the Nakba, in addition to 750,000 get displaced at the hands of.
That was because they declared war on Israel. That's because they declared war on Israel. It wasn't, Israel's fault. Now let's take it. Now this would be a good moment to paste sources in the chat, right? Like, this would be a good moment to cite sources, right? Because, and this was a long drive too that we just went on.
What are folks noticing?
What are folks noticing about that? Gosh, I hope people don't think I'm Trumpian. Joey was laughing watching us.
It is laughable. Yes.
And Joey, there's a few remarks from Joey. Joey says they can't join because they're making dinner. And they made a little remark about debates in general, that those are not in good faith conversations. Just saying, when we debate, it isn't a knowledge-seeking moment. It is a popcorn time where we watch the WWF of politics happen, trash entertainment like outburst from Congress weeks ago. Yeah, and I think that's part of why we have to have it be an imaginary debate, because even if we have a Trump person debating, like, it's a fictional device to have everybody cite all their sources. But for instance, like it does increase the sense of tragedy, I guess, in some sense, right, for everybody, because sometimes you have bad sources and then you're just barreling towards a fate. But the point is just that, that we can make this more of a learning experience in some ways. And Joey also said this has been the status quo since Bush Sr. and Clinton froze the League of Women Voters out in 1988. And Joey says, I support and will be voting for Jill.
Yeah, this is one of the, it seems like we always say this, most important elections, but, with the climate accelerating, the emissions and the heating accelerating, and the whole breakdown of the climate system, like this election basically takes us to almost the end of the decade. And this was supposed to be the decade where humanity wises up and gets organized and mobilized to solve the climate crisis. We've been delaying and obfuscating for 40 years. And so it's like something seems very different about this election to me, because of that. Then the way Biden, even as way night and day different that he is than Trump, who just offered the oil and gas industry, for $1 billion campaign of finance. It'll be the best deal you've ever had because of all the taxes you're going to save, right? It's like what could be a clearer contrast? But that's the false dichotomy. I feel like that we're being subdued into believing, is that we have time for incremental changes. The Biden administration, they just started the climate core of civilian climate core, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And they've got big money for anybody to jump into action, to plant trees and to build solar panels across the nation for low income and all the rest of it. But that totally delays, I guess, the elite class that are running the economy, for them to try to figure out where they went wrong and what they're going to do, because I feel like they are learning about the catastrophe, the unraveling, and they're building bunkers on their private islands in preparation for this event. But yeah, what Biden could do, or like what some of the third party candidates are doing, is saying something radically different, which is we need to reorganize the economy because that's what's driving the cost of living crisis and biodiversity loss, the overconsumption of the planet. And yeah.
So you, your point of view on this is that the third parties are talking more about solutions for the environment than the mainstream debate is. And I'm noticing, I just want to point this out to the group. I'm noticing a number of folks in the room are saying who their favorite candidates are. And I just want to say, like, that's cool. Code Whatever is a nonpartisan organization. So as an institution, we don't take any stand on anybody. We're here to support human rights. But we also want to encourage other folks. For instance, if folks come here and there's a candidate you love, you can just be yourself and defend your supporter if you want. This is like C-SPAN in that way, that we're setting up a place where everybody can have these conversations with each other. And you can also try out a candidate that you don't agree with, because we need everybody to be represented in this debate. We can't just say, oh, only if you support your candidate will they get supported. We want to make sure that even if somebody's not here, their candidates, that people are free to choose between all the choices. And so that's a big part of the service that we're providing here. And so with that, I want to share what Joey's saying too, that where are those fact checkers in the era of Biden? And you can wish in one hand and you can do something else in another, and you can see which one fills first. It is in regards of Biden, Joey says. So okay. So now, what are we noticing from just what was being said by Jill Stein? Do you want to reflect on that at all, or do we want to go for the next candidate? I could also go for RFK, too.
I mean, if we were to just compare and contrast what Trump said to oil and gas.
Yeah, if we wanted to, actually, like we've had a number of different perspectives now. So what we could do also is, so the Trump oil and gas thing, we could explore that in the learning stuff after. Do we want to follow up? Do you want to stay focused on Gaza for a little bit, and stay with some of the stuff that's on that? So, for instance, if we wanted to, go ahead.
Well, I think, I'm just looking at Dr. Stein's website, and she's got.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I could do that. Maybe we could do some reading. Like present, is that the button?
Yeah.
Share screen, yeah. And this one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's got a whole section.
You might want to make that a little bit larger. Do you know how to?
Let's see. Well, I can stretch it. Whoops. And how's that? Can you read that? I mean, she is out in the streets with the student encampments, getting arrested. She really puts her body and her words on the line, like no candidate I've seen in a while. But I haven't been paying much attention. But yeah, the way she talks about foreign policy is refreshing.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to the specifics of that a little bit?
Well, she recognizes that,
I guess, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, she's just very keen on the budgets and the endless war and the lobbyists like AIPAC, and says in contrast to that, everyone has a right to live in peace and dignity and free from violence and oppression. I don't know how she would turn that into foreign policy, but it's a great start, as opposed to we're going to kill the terrorists, because we know that like violent military solutions don't give lasting peace for human rights, like we've studied on other episodes.
Yeah.
So
okay, and this was kind of the basis of what you were using for your policy stuff too, with it, would you say?
Yeah,
cool. And so, okay, this is cool. And then let's talk about when you were playing Biden, what was the basis of policy that you were using for on that? Or do you want me to talk about what I was using for my policy on Trump?
Actually, when I looked up Biden's policy, all I got was donations. I couldn't find.
Yeah, did you see the foreign policy article I sent you?
Yeah, I found that. Am I still sharing that, or
I don't? Let's see.
You still seeing Jill's?
Yeah, still seeing Jill's. You might have to hit share on another tab. There you go. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started reading this.
Can you make it a little bit larger too?
Oh yeah. How's that?
Yeah, you can also do, if you want. There's also Command Shift Plus, and very often that'll get you even larger. Yeah. Ooh, beautiful.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
what should we read? Should we read a little bit about just a little bit out of this?
Yeah. You start from the top. You think?
Yeah, we could start just from. We're just going to go through this we're going to go through all the candidates very briefly, or all the candidates we talked about today, briefly, I think, and because we want to also take a moment. Well, we could does anybody in the audience want to join one of these debates? I guess is a question, and if folks do want to join the debates, let us know in the chat, and we'll do a few more rounds of it. We also could do a little bit. We could just cover some of the Gaza news too before we wind up, and also go through the announcements. How does that land with folks? How does that land with you, Tim?
It sounds good. Yeah, if Joey wants to come on, if he's done with dinner, or anyone really, it would be good to get a few more candidates represented. And like we're sorry, but we lost Jay at the last minute. He was going to come on and be Cornell, Dr. West, and that would have been pretty awesome. He's going to come back soon, I think.
Well, he was going to. I think he was going to be a West supporter.
Yeah.
And but like also it's what we did tonight is good. We're showing everybody a way that we can start getting into these things, and even if we only debated 3 candidates tonight across the political spectrum, even if that's as far as we went tonight, but then we also do some learning about Gaza stuff, I think that's very much worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a great start.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I mean, like what we're doing here is it's not easy work, but we want to try to really get people to have nuanced conversations about this.
Yeah.
Should we read this paragraph now?
Yes. This is a report from February 13, and it's titled Biden's Grand Bargain to Remake the Middle East. The election year gamble is a long shot. And the first says the Biden administration is laying out the groundwork for an ambitious grand bargain that would tie rapprochement between Israel and Saudi Arabia to substantial steps towards Palestinian statehood, according to 9 analysts and former U.S. government officials familiar with the plan. The long shot diplomatic gamble could remake the Middle East and define U.S. President Joe Biden's foreign policy legacy, but it faces staggering challenges that many fear will be insurmountable.
Yeah. So what are folks noticing in that so far? Are folks noticing anything? Should we go a little bit farther on it?
Yeah.
Like another paragraph.
Yeah.
And I think we put the article in the chat? Let's see. I can add it. I can throw it in the chat. But yeah, go ahead if you want to, or do you want me to read the next paragraph?
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So the plan the administration is working on builds on pre-existing efforts to strike a U.S.-Saudi defense pact, a top Saudi foreign policy priority. In exchange, Saudi Arabia, the most influential Gulf Arab state, would establish diplomatic relations with Israel, with all parties agreeing to forge irreversible steps toward Palestinian statehood. So yeah, what are folks noticing here?
It sounds like U.S. Saudi defense pact would be canceled. You said
No. It's saying,
a new pact. Okay.
Yeah.
So we would give financial aid, I guess, and weapons to Saudi, which would sort of encourage a diplomatic relationship with them and Israel somehow.
I think there's a piece of it also that may involve consumer nuclear. That's part of it as well. But
like power generation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's, yeah, we could look at the details of it, but yeah, so it would be a military pact a defense pact between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. And I'm also noticing that it says with all parties agreeing to forge irreversible steps towards Palestinian statehood.
It doesn't quite, the connection between the Israel-Palestine relationship is not clear yet to me. How strengthening Israel and Saudi Arabia could help Palestine.
So, well, it's always been a possibility. In fact, even before Mohammed bin Salman, the prince who is very much in charge in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia actually said that if Israel made a good deal with Palestine that granted real sovereignty, that the Saudis would go to every single Arab nation and speak on Israel's behalf. That's what the Saudis have promised for a long time. That goes back, I think, maybe 20 years, and so it's viewed as being something that is important. Yeah, and the thoughts are Joey's saying thoughts to deter thoughts of an increased regional war, and then I guess the other thing about it is that when there was this piece, now this is something that we should have some sources for to talk about it, but I can put those in the chat afterwards. But before the ceasefire agreement was accepted by Hamas, it included many of those terms. And then Israel said that they agreed to those terms, and then Hamas accepted those terms, and then Israel backed out. So, and so there's this piece here that and a lot of people have been accusing Israel of backing out. Now I should give a source for that, and I can definitely do that after the show. Awesome. But I think that's an interesting piece there. as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, anything else? Now, it may well be tonight on this debate night. Like I don't, Tim. How long do you want to keep working on this tonight? Do we want to keep going and look at the other candidates now for a little bit and see go back? So we went through Jill, we went through Biden now. So my basis of my whole thing was this video of Trump at the NRA. So let me, I will show you.
Joey also shared maybe biologicaldiversity.org. Is that? We'll talk about that next.
Tremendous helps marketers send Visa, PayPal, and gift cards out.
Sorry about that, everyone. The woes of C-SPAN commercials. So we've got this. This was the NRA thing. Let's see. I think, if I recall correctly, yeah. So here's Trump.
It's absolutely insane. When Russia and Ukraine settled, and we will restore, as we had just 4 years ago, peace through strength. They respected our country, and they respected your president. I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror.
So that was the only statement that I found in this video that he actually made about it, but that was his most recent statement, and so that was kind of the basis. That was the basis in how I was arguing it. I think there's not a lot of nuance necessarily in his argument, right? Like it's very black and white. He's pretty clear about what he wants to do.
Law and order.
So if nobody else wants to debate with us a little bit more, maybe we want to now just we could pivot to some more of the learning. How does that sound to you?
I think it's so important because I just had my first legislative day where I went with a group who organized it and spoke with North Carolina state legislators, House of Representatives, and senators. And I can't tell you, like maybe 3 out of the 4 senator representatives that we visited thanked us for coming and educating them about the story from Palestine that they haven't heard. They, like one of them is a senator, and she's voting for. We went to advocate for not voting for three bills, and I won't go into the details, but just about Islamophobia and that definition being added to the state rules, and what was another one? But basically, they were talking about how thankful they were that somebody was coming with information that they could use, and she, what did she say? Basically, she had this intuition that these were not going to be helpful laws that were being proposed, and she didn't want to vote for them, but it was just an intuition, and that we were giving her actual information to wrap her words around to not vote, and she knew she was going to be receiving hate mail and threats against her family, and but she knew this was about human rights, and it was very moving to be there. But just the fact that like most of our elected representatives actually need to be here learning with us told me something today. I learned a lot. It's like we think that people are taking care of the hard decisions that need to be made, and it's not quite that easy, right? Because the information is being obfuscated, and there's just so much misinformation and disinformation that I just don't think people know what they're voting on and what the repercussions of their work is. So yeah, really glad to be learning from friends who are organizing these, and from us here doing the work. And yeah, so thanks. I feel like it could be a full-time job, just unpacking the layers of story that our current world is built around. I mean, it's just never ending. To ask for receipts around what happened in 1948, it would take a small stack of books by scholars on both sides to sort out. But the good news is that when you hear people talking about something that corroborates with a lot of other evidence, it sounds very clear and assertive. But then when you hear the disinformation, you can start to tell that they're not telling the truth. It's a process. I feel
there's
like
a certain kind of dissonance there that you're noticing between telling the truth and hiding the truth. That's so yeah, this thanks for sharing that experience with us. If folks are noticing anything, feel free to share it in the chat. If you have any questions about what it means to be involved in legislative advocacy, feel free to share it in the chat. I was thinking as we talk about human rights in the Middle East, there was recently. Are you familiar with Edward Said? He was a Palestinian American who, along with Daniel Barenboim, who was actually the conductor of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra for most of my childhood, and a former Israeli American conductor who worked with Edward Said, and they made an orchestra of students from Israel and Palestine together. And Said actually, throughout a lot of history, was considered one of the major Palestinian activists. But I was wondering, do we want to watch a little bit of that about the orchestra still playing right now through this moment? And PBS covered a little bit about it.
It sounds healing. Yeah,
Should we take
I can imagine.
Yeah, I thought it would be kind of a nice thing to explore at the beginning of tonight, and then we can look at a little bit more evidence and before we wind up tonight.
All last week, Margaret Warner and a NewsHour team reported from Israel on many facets of its increasingly tense relations with its neighbors. While she was there, I had a chance to see the Mideast conflict from another angle: music.
The dramatic opening movement of Beethoven's Third, the Eroica Symphony, performed by a group of musicians on a heroic mission of their own. This is the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, made up largely of Israelis, Palestinians, and other Arabs from around the Middle East, people who might consider the other an enemy and would likely never otherwise meet.
It is a space for dialogue. It is where you get to know where else outside this orchestra has a Syrian the chance to meet an Israeli and work with him and do things with him and talk to him and understand his narrative. Nowhere.
The driving force behind the group is Israeli Daniel Barenboim, a conductor and pianist of international renown.
And he's an Israeli and I'm a Palestinian.
He and his friend Edward Said, a Palestinian-American literary scholar and activist, first brought young musicians from the Mideast to a workshop in Germany in 1999, where they played together and talked about the tensions in their part of the world. Edward Said died of leukemia in 2003. Barenboim has continued, building the orchestra into a highly acclaimed group that gathers every summer in Spain for workshops before heading out on tour. They've appeared regularly in Europe and Asia. We caught up with them at Boston Symphony Hall, part of the city's Celebrity Series, at the beginning of just their second ever visit to the U.S. Backstage, musicians aged 15 to 36 warmed up and chatted in a variety of languages.
No.
At rehearsal, Barenboim was a tough taskmaster.
You see how much more space you have for the crescendo. Please don't play mechanically.
Cajoling his young musicians.
You're just playing comfortably, without any idea of thought. Ya ba ba ba, ya ba ba ba. What is that?
I watched the rehearsal, and you were pretty tough on them at various points. You kept saying, you're playing too comfortably. What does that mean?
It means that to make music, to express music, you cannot adopt the line of least resistance. You have to adopt the line of most resistance. Music is not politically correct. Music demands total concentration and the perfect matrimony between thought, feeling, and gut.
So how do you...
people who take it easy should choose other professions.
Really?
Yes.
Uncompromising in his music, Barenboim is also uncompromising in his politics. He's been critical of Israeli treatment of Palestinians, including expanding settlements. Several years ago, he brought this orchestra to the West Bank and has performed himself in Gaza, concerts that were very controversial in Israel. But he and the orchestra have also been criticized by Palestinians and other Arabs for promoting a kind of normalization that ignores the realities on the ground. A planned concert in Arab East Jerusalem last year, for example, was canceled after complaints by Palestinians. Musicians on both sides have felt the pressure. 23-year-old Palestinian violinist Tim Khalifi has been with the orchestra since she was just 13.
Coming to this orchestra is probably one of the hardest things that each one of us does. It's not easy to come and face so much pain and suffering and come to face with, the people who you grew up thinking that they caused it.
She says her family supported her desire to play with the orchestra, but
the general population is against such a project, especially these days with, ever worsening political situations and increasing levels of frustrations. And projects like this are viewed as normalizing projects and sort of collaboration in a negative sense of the word.
Yeah, so how do you deal with that?
Well, the only way that we can achieve anything that is even remotely related to peace is if we sit together and talk, or if we at least try to.
You experience the same
I experienced
criticism?
some things. Actually, lately I experienced with a friend of the family who was very he was criticizing basically mainly the activity of this orchestra, activity of Maestro Barman.
33-year-old Israeli flautist Guy Eshed has been with the orchestra for 12 years. He now has a busy international career with orchestras and chamber groups, but he makes time to rejoin the West Eastern Divan every year with a clear idea of what is and is not possible.
It's a humanitarian project. It's not an orchestra for peace. We play
You're not expecting to bring peace out of
the fact we play the ode to joy and all men should become brothers is great, beautiful. It's a great idea, but it will not bring peace. We're not politicians. We cannot do that. We are trying to achieve some kind of small utopia in our little community that can maybe give an example outside.
Meanwhile, of course, the upheaval and violence in the Mideast continue, and that limits the reach of this orchestra. While it can perform here in the U.S. and in Europe, it's nearly impossible now to play in the home countries of its members. Barenboim is undeterred.
It is even more relevant. Why does the orchestra function and the situation on the ground doesn't function? Because in the orchestra we have the most important quality, and that is equality.
Is it frustrating to not be able to perform in the Arab countries, in Israel?
Very much so. I think the full dimension of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra will come to fruition the day that it can play in all the countries that are represented in the orchestra. That means in Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Palestine, and Israel.
Will that day come?
One day, I'm sure. I'm sure. One day, I'm sure.
The great hope of a man and an orchestra making beautiful music in a troubled world.
And there's more online, including an interview with Miriam Said, who now manages the orchestra, plus watch an excerpt from the performance of Beethoven's Third Symphony. You'll find all that on our homepage.
This news is funded by viewers like you.
And there it is. What did you notice, Tim?
I guess I found it refreshing. People bridging cultural, political differences. Some of the comments from the players were really astounding. Like, we're playing when we should be fighting. Somebody said it felt like an act of rebellion or something.
Yeah.
That people from their countries or their families were against it because it just kind of goes against the narrative that they tell each other. If you're subhuman, what are you doing playing with music? Yeah, it must be threatening, for folks who see that and say no.
When I was a kid, Barenboim would often be in my family or in the Jewish community growing up, there was often a lot of hostility to Barenboim, despite the fact that his family were Holocaust survivors and all this, that he would play Wagner in Israel, and there was a history of Wagner being used by the Nazis, and so they said that he was insensitive for playing Wagner in Israel. It was, and he said that if we don't play this music, young orchestral musicians aren't going to understand musical history, and this was during the same period that he was also working with Edward Said on the East-West Divan. And so it's encouraging to see that's not, that this violence is not destroying that.
Yeah.
Is there so I'm looking at our little outline that we made for tonight. Like, we've got the ICC arrest warrants, we've got what's going on in Washington, we have President Biden's Morehouse commencement speech, we have the school protests. Is there anything you'd want to focus on towards the end, or we've had a good night tonight, and it's just a few of us here now. Maybe do we want to do announcements and wrap up?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's. This has been a new thing. Thanks everyone who's joined us. Thank you so much, Joey, for staying with us. I want to bring out a few announcements here. So, many of us aren't just here for human rights. We're also here to learn to code, and so tomorrow we've got an amazing session that's planned, and I'm going to show you about it right now. So yeah, tomorrow we'll be having a code lab. This is our website, codewhatever.us. So if you want to go to it, it's just code whatever. I'll put it in the chat right now. It's just codewhatever.us. And so yeah, you just click on this link. It's down the page. Oh, good. Glad. Thanks, Joey. Thanks so much. We're getting ready to wrap up now, but doing the last announcements here. And so yeah, we've got the Code Lab on Thursday. This coming Sunday, please join us. We're going to be hosting a human rights learning lab. Come in and practice a soapboxing speech, or come in and write an investigative journalism piece, or a letter to the editor, or whatever it is you want to do. Come in and practice with us. Learn how to deepen a speech if you want to, or something that you're working on, and we'll help you out and work on stuff together. And we're also going to do more learning like we did today here. So that's going to be on Sunday, and then next Tuesday also we'll be having another stream on next Tuesday, where we're going to be using Python and exploring the Python koans together in a group setting. So we hope you'll join that. And then finally, just two more things. One, if you're thinking about helping out, you can always volunteer and donate your time. And there's a lot of cool ways that we're inviting folks to volunteer and donate their time right now. We're going to be having local clothing swaps eventually all around the country for mutual aid. And so if you want to help out with a clothing swap, you can message us. You can just message me. I'm ba@codewhatever.us. I'll just add that in right now. That's ba@codewhatever.us. And so feel free to message me about that if you want to volunteer on a mutual aid event. And if you want, you can also volunteer to facilitate on a specific subject for human rights literacy. If there's something you want to help folks learn about or think that's important that we should take under consideration, you're always welcome to do that. Or even if you want to train a tactic or a strategy for nonviolent direct action organizing. And the same thing could be said for coding and marketing as well. So if you want to help us market stuff and get stuff out there, you can help with that. Just message me at ba@codewhatever.us. And if you can't help out by volunteering your time, you can always also, if you are able to, you can also always volunteer financially. Hold on one second. Some reason something's weird here. Hold on. This is very strange.
Trying to bring the website up.
Oh gosh, it's terrible. No, it's like the browser is messing up, and so it's like I don't know what's going on here. Let's see. So if we come back to this layout, it's a little bit, yeah, there's something weird going on here. So let me reshare this. I don't know what was going on here. Weird.
Kind of popped up as a half window, small window.
Yeah, something's weird with this.
Getting stuck.
So yeah, so anyhow, if you're on codewhatever.us, you can see the window here in a small way. Feel free to, if you're on Twitch, donate on Twitch. If you're on GoFundMe, feel free to share and donate on GoFundMe. Every little bit really helps us. It makes a huge difference. And so thank you so much, everyone. This has been a wonderful night. If you want to be involved in being an imaginary debater, again, you can feel free to keep sharing. Share at BA Code Whatever. Let me know, and we'll bring you in. That's all I've got for tonight. Anything else from you, Tim?
What would you recommend? That they grab some receipts, grab some sources, and send them to you?
Yeah. We, especially for Sunday, grab some receipts. Bring your receipts. If there's something you want to present on, we'll help you get that going.
If you had that ahead of time, could you share it on screen? Would that be easy? Or somehow set it up so everybody
I think, yeah, if somebody had receipts that they believe would be helpful to people, we'll also help them present them, in a experiential way. So we try to do experiential facilitation here, and using dialogue-based learning. So if you're willing to do that, we'll teach you how to do it if you'd like to, and you can help present with us. And so that's a great way that people can help out. But also, we're going to be organizing links. We're going to be organizing sources. If you look in the chat, we have some links from tonight that you can take a look at, and you can look at the ones for next time. So as we get ready for Sunday, let us know what you want to work on. Anything else, Tim?
Just a question about the document of resources that you were reading from. Was that the outline for tonight?
Yeah, that's our outline.
Did you share that so folks
I did.
can look at those resources? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll share it one more time. And folks, you can, on this outline, by the way, even if you're not an editor on this,
can people put links in the comment as a commenter, like making?
Yeah, you can make comments on there. So even though you may not be able to edit it, you can definitely comment. So I've just put that again in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone. Anything else, Tim?
No, thank you.
This is great.
Wonderful. Any ideas on how we could push for getting the two candidates to open up or have like a broader debate, like we're imagining?
Yeah, I think we don't have to just debate on Gaza, but it's important to, I'd say, maybe in our imaginary debates, that we start on issue-based debates first, so that we don't have to take, so that everybody can debate. You don't have to be some kind of expert debater. in order to join. And then as we get more people with expertise, then we can start doing more expansive debates.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds great.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining in this wild adventure with me tonight. This has not been something that was easy. It's something that is.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. And I think next time, if I remember to focus on the topic, because I think tonight I was all over the place and not on Gaza. But you had kept us on Gaza, and I should have thought about that from the beginning, because that's the point of this usually our show as human rights in Gaza. So it should have been obvious that the debate topics would have focused around human rights in Gaza. So next time.
Well, we're doing it here. Joey says land back as we close. Thank you so much, Joey.
Everywhere.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
So
Thank
much
you,
work.
everyone. This has been a beautiful night. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you next week as we continue. Next week, we're going to be talking about fracking and radioactive waste. We may even have another imaginary presidential debate. We'll talk about that. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Take care.